What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Pulse. Today we dive into the complexities of happiness. In this episode, we look at how smartphone self-reporting sheds a light on shared traits among genuinely happy individuals, like resistance in physical activity. We explore the impact of the digital era, investigating how smartphones and social media can both positively and negatively influence connections. We uncover interesting links between happiness and activities such as kindness, leisure, and immersing in nature. We also check out happiness scales and global surveys, shaking up stereotypes and offering new angles. So join us today for a discussion that might change how you see what it truly means to be happy, right here on The Pulse. In the complex realm of human emotions, happiness is like a tricky and hard to pin down strand. Defining it is tough, and measuring it is objectively even tougher. Different cultures see happiness in different lights. Some see it as a good thing, others see it as something that can cause trouble or be disruptive. But even with this diversity, there are some commonalities among those who say that they're happy. That is often seen through the lens of research using smartphone apps and self reporting. So, those are the two sort of caveats to how all of this research was discovered. So, one thing that happy people have in common is their knack for keeping a positive attitude, even when things get tough. It's like they have this resilient mindset that goes beyond bad situations, suggesting that happiness doesn't just depend on what's happening around you.
I think that it definitely has a lot to do with happiness, but I also think that there's certain things that you kind of need to have in place, kind of like core happiness things, um, in order to have the resiliency to have that kind of mindset.
Yeah, because then I guess if or it's like you need to have like some good things in your life to be able to like have that, or
Mhm.
else I'm just
To be able to
imagining,
maintain that too,
or
yeah.
I'm just imagining someone that's like that. Oh, that keeps looking on the bright side of things, even if nothing in their life is good, and they're just like they should be upset and sad all the time. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you're just surrounded by people who keep telling you that things about yourself are wrong and just do things all the time to purposefully make you miserable, I think it would be very hard to have that kind of mindset.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
if but sometimes like even if the only core happiness thing you have around you is like that group of people that you're that you've just surrounded yourself by the right people.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's the biggest thing.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I would probably agree with that. And also, like, I don't know, I feel like it probably wouldn't be super healthy to be really trying to push yourself into that kind of mindset
Mhm.
because, um, oh, where was I going with that? Um, it's it's important to still be like acknowledging your situation and still processing everything. And if you're kind of trying to push yourself into believing that everything is, you know, absolutely perfectly fine, then you're not going to be actually happy on a super deep level if you haven't gotten through the sadness first, I feel like.
Mhm.
It seems happiness can also be pursued through physical activity, whether that's following a workout routine or just like hanging out in your garden or mowing the lawn. These activities can release serotonin and endorphins, giving a boost to your mood, as well as doing things like what you're doing right now, Kayla, playing with your pets. Um, that can also release serotonin and endorphins and boost your mood. So physical activity, having pets around, these are also really, really great things that people do who are happy. Like these are things that can contribute to happiness. Another factor adding to the happiness mix is positive social connections, doing kind things, investing time and effort in relationship, and giving to others. These are common themes among people who feel Good. People who just feel general happiness or who report happiness.
I can see that. And I feel like I think a kind thing is more likely to make you happy if you have like an intrinsic motivation for it, and it's not just, oh, I'm checking off a list of like, oh, it's like do a good thing today. Okay, I have to do that, I guess.
Mhm.
Like if you actually have that motivation to do it, then I think it would be a good thing, but then you probably would do it anyways. So
Mhm.
Oh, psychological well-being also being a big player in the happiness game. So strategies like dealing with stress, being kind to yourself, and feeling grateful have also all been linked to higher happiness levels. Keeping a balance of positive thoughts seems to be a common thread overall affecting your sense of contentment. So I can see how these things would be common among people who tend to report higher levels of happiness. Being able to deal with stress easier, of course, you're gonna report being happier if you're less stressed, if you know how to deal with stressful situations, or if those situations don't hit you the same way that they would hit somebody else. And of course, we all know that happiness is subjective. In the era of smartphones and social media, their impact on happiness is sort of like a double-edged sword. 'Cause these platforms help connect people, but the kind of connections they foster can be positive or negative. Interestingly, happy folks tend to engage more in positive communication, like texting and phone calls, than they do spending time like going through Instagram or, Twitter and X comments. Um, those activities don't tend to make people as happy. Funny that.
Yeah, that's not surprising. When I'm feeling really bad, I tend to keep myself off social media because I find like especially like during COVID, I completely stopped going on social media altogether for a very long time because it was all very negative, and I'm like, I'm already feeling anxious and bad. I don't need to make it worse by looking at all of this.
Digging into the connection between money and happiness also reveals some interesting findings. It turns out that spending money on other people and enjoying leisure activities are the two areas wherein money actually can buy happiness. So, along the same lines of doing things for other people, if that's something that brings you joy, then spending money on other people can also give you those same feelings. And you have to be careful, obviously. You don't want to just start spending, you don't want to make it rain everywhere you go, else you're going to have a dry spell pretty soon. But spending money on other people and enjoying leisure activities like going on vacation or taking small trips, those things are areas where money does afford you experiences of happiness. Nature, with its calming and refreshing powers, turns out to be a big player in the happiness equation. There's a strong link between spending time in nature and lower levels of depression, highlighting the importance of bringing the natural world into our lives. And I think, that kind of goes without saying. Like, we know this already, that getting outside, getting fresh air is good for your mood.
I think also, like, if you have a lot of sensory struggles, going out and like going camping or going on a sailing trip or and things like that where you're getting away from all the hustle and bustle of the city and just getting out and enjoying nature can be really, like, I've always found it really rejuvenating to just get away from the massive sensory input that we get here in the city and just spend time in the trees and on the water. And yeah, I I find that it's really helpful for that.
Absolutely. So happiness is, like I said, it's a subjective thing. There's really no objective way to measure happiness, but there are some happiness scales that are notable that people do tend to refer to, and I'm going to leave a link to those in the description below. But I also wanted to address overall world happiness, because there is a world happiness report that comes out each year. The Global Emotions Survey puts South American countries in the spotlight, and the World Happiness Survey always talks up Scandinavian nations. But the kicker is when you mix both surveys from 2019 to now, Canada and Iceland take the cake as happiest countries. So we can forget the usual hype around Finland and Denmark, which are usually famous for being the happiest countries. But that goes to show as well the understanding and defining of happiness really matters when you're trying to make sense of these survey results. So, what does happiness look like? It's different for each person, each culture, even each person who identifies with a different religion. Happiness can present itself in different ways in your life. But I think in general, we can all agree that it's a sense of joy and peace and relaxation and ease. That happiness is generally something that most of us want to be able to feel, I would say. But what could be getting in the way? Social comparison, perfectionism, the wanting to be better, having higher standards than you need to, materialism. If you define your happiness on things that you have, well, if you lose those things, then well, there goes your happiness, right? That's really not the best way to go about things. So I have a list of top ways that have been researched to increase happiness. Now, none of this is going to make you happy if you're depressed. This isn't a magic wand. There's no instant fixes if you aren't happy. This list isn't gonna make you happy, but in general, some things that you can do to improve your overall happiness and well-being are meditate, spend time with people who make you feel good, like family and friends, improve your sleep, move closer to work so you eliminate what is for most people a stressful point in their lives, and that's a work commute. So if you can shorten or eliminate that, that's great. Get outside, spend some time in the outdoors, in nature, exercise, practice laughing and smiling. And I know that sounds silly, but like if something makes you laugh, if something makes you laugh, like, okay, I'm going to admit it. I like watching people fail. I love watching fails. That stuff makes me crack up. And if I'm in a bad space, I'm going to watch all fails on Instagram. Like, not going to lie, that's what's happening. And like, that's okay. That's what those things are there for, right? So practice laughing and smiling, get into the habit of feeling good, help others, practice gratitude, and plan a trip.
Also, distancing yourself from toxic people in your life.
Yes.
Or also participating in a hobby, or like a sport.
Yes. What do you do?
I play guitar.
Yeah, I feel like hobbies always make me a lot more happy. And certain hobbies I feel like can kind of merge with like different kind of things that make happy. Like you can give you connection with people and you can connect over like a shared thing, which is always pretty nice.
And also, I know a lot of people struggle with comparing themselves to others, but really looking at your own improvement rather than comparing yourself to somebody else. Look at your, like, if you're into painting, look at what you used to do compared to what you're doing now. In your sports, think back to the way you used to play compared to how you're playing now. Yeah, just really compare yourself to yourself. That can definitely feel good when you realize that you have improved.
That does it for this week's episode of The Pulse. Join us next time when we get our thrill on looking at accessible theme parks around the world. As always, if you have questions or ideas for the show, give us a shout at voa@pacificautismfamily.com. We look forward to more of your great questions. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.